You are now experiencing Less Than Fresh, a movie podcast. Less Than Fresh is a free-form discussion of movies and other related media, so it should be assumed there are potential spoilers hiding around every corner. Consider this your official spoiler warning. This podcast is rated not safe for work and contains mild cursing. So, if you're uncomfortable with that, then you can go yourself in the and then get the out of here. This podcast is designed to be taken auditorily or optically. If you've somehow ingested it orally or rectally, please induce vomiting immediately. Now, on with the show.
Hello. Welcome,
Hello, everybody.
welcome again to another wonderful, illustrious episode of Less Than Fresh, a movie podcast. I'm Jasper Bing.
And I'm Cassidy.
Hey, he said it himself this time. I didn't step on his intro. This is our fifth episode in this series of misadventures. So, I like to get a little creative with the episode naming. This is episode 5. So of course, for episode 5, the title is Number 5 is Alive.
There's a rare movie.
Input. No disassemble.
There is an old movie reference. It's not to say obscure, but it was actually kind of a hit, so I don't think it was really obscure.
It was a hit, and the second one did way better than the first one. I don't know about box office numbers, but I mean, certainly in fan response. I mean, I've seen Short Circuit 2 on TV available to watch a lot more often than the first one.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of our younger viewers and listeners may not get the reference, but then you said the name of the movie. So.
Yeah. Short Circuit. If you don't know it, kids, look it up. Thank me later. I'm a pretty big Short Circuit fan. I do have an appreciation for the first one. The second one is definitely, it's one of those rare occurrences in my mind where the sequel was actually better than the first one, and it's probably because it doesn't have the charisma vacuum that is Steve Guttenberg.
I like Steve Guttenberg.
I like him if he's in a movie that's called Cocoon.
I liked him in Police Academy. He was all right in Police Academy too.
Okay.
3 and 4, yeah, okay, never mind. Wasn't really watching it for him anyways. Which was he even in 4? Or was he only in the first?
Do not know. I do not know.
It's been so long since I've watched them. I don't remember. I know he was in the first 2. I'm just not 100% sure about the rest. Because by then it already devolved away from his character anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I think he was in the third one.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've seen any of the Police Academy movies.
Well, I would definitely say you're not really missing anything if you haven't seen them, but if you have the opportunity, it's worth seeing them up to about 3. After 3,
After 3, don't go out of my way to track them down.
No, go out of your way to avoid them. I would say 2 and 3, Bobcat Goldthwait kind of really stole the show. So that's actually, I think, a lot of people, that's what he's really known for, was those 2 movies.
Yeah.
Which is sad because he was actually has a fairly prolific career, both as an actor and a director,
Right.
and a stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually am one of the people who know him better for his stand-up than his acting so much. And certainly I don't know him for the Police Academy movies. But anyway, I wanted to get on with things. Just curious, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Staying
Trick
busy.
question, don't care. We're doing another special episode like the last one.
For our listeners, I'd like to share some descriptive text for you. It's called, "I am now giving Jasper a rude gesture."
He's flipping me the bird. I guess I didn't do that well at pissing him off because I didn't get the double eagle salute. But anyway, maybe later in the show we'll see what happens. But the reason why I don't care, don't have time for how you're doing or anything else in this world is because we're doing another very special episode like the one we did last time, where we did the alignment chart of good movies versus bad movies, and whether they were because of or in spite of Nicolas Cage. We're doing that again with Adam Sandler. Yeah, I want to explain that thing that happens to me, because if you've been around in this episode or the previous episode and heard me stumble over Adam Sandler's name, okay, what happens is one part of my brain thinks of Andy Samberg, who was on Saturday Night Live and has the same initials. Part of my brain thinks of Adam Sandler, who was a video game reviewer on the TV show X-Play. And then part of my brain thinks of Adam Savage, former Mythbuster. And so my brain goes into this series of checks and double checks where I'm just constantly going, is it this Adam? Is it this Adam? Is it this Adam? And no, it's none of those fucking guys. It's Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
I even have it written down in front of me this time.
We promised we'd be doing this episode in the future, though I'm sure nobody expected it to be the very next episode. We're like, stay tuned. It'll be there in the future. We really made it sound like we were planning on doing this much, much later, but nope, we're doing it next.
Yeah, and a large part of that has to do with the fact that the last episode was zero editing. All I did was slap the intro on the front of that bad boy and shove it onto the internet. If it's cheap and easy content and it's easy for me to slap it together and shove it out there for monetization, please, dear God, monetization.
Someday.
Yeah, I don't pray for much, but monetization, please, God. Yeah, I just plus these are fun for me, so yeah, I just decided episode 5 was going to be this, and then episode 6 is going to be our Halloween spectacular. I'm not revealing it now, but we are going to have a special guest co-host. So that's going to be fun. The first time we ever have an additional panelist on the show. We did have.
So if you're really tired of hearing us talk, well, here's your episode. Now you don't have to listen to us talk all the time.
If you're really tired of hearing him talk, he's not going to be doing a lot of talking in the Halloween episode because he's already said that he's not an expert in horror movies per se.
I'm not really a huge horror film fan, so generally don't watch them. Not because I think they're scary. It's actually the exact opposite. I don't find most of them that scary. They're cheap jump scares and gore, and quite often some really stupid plots. So it's just not really my cup of tea. That being said, I love horror comedies.
Yeah, I do hate cheap jump scare horror, but there is something to be said for the genre as a whole because it's not all that. There are some very suspenseful, very dark and suspenseful movies that actually, are that actually take you on a ride, and it's not just waiting for the next person to say boo.
Yeah, there are some out there, and those tend to be the ones that I actually enjoy. But I personally think they're few and far between because I haven't seen a whole lot.
Yeah. Okay. So to do this episode, we're doing the same thing we did last time. We're using Tier Maker, which is a free chart and list maker. And so we've got the 4 squares. Top and bottom of the chart are good movies at the top, bad movies at the bottom. On the left is because of the actor in question. On the right is in spite of the actor in question. So, however the movie turned out, is it because of that actor? Is it in spite of that actor? And they might end up in the middle, or they might end up in the in spite of category because they just weren't a contributing factor. Like we had several Nicolas Cage movies where we said it would be the same movie even if they cast someone else. So that was good movie or bad movie in spite of that actor, since they really weren't part of the equation.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say the same movie, but it would be just as good with somebody else, or just as bad with somebody else.
Right. That's like, for example, that's what we decided about the National Treasure movies, was that they would be just as good or just as bad. We decided they were in the good category, but they would be just as good with somebody else.
It surprised myself, honestly, with that one. I wasn't expecting to be as many movies in the good category as I wound up putting up there.
Yeah. It was it was a real examination of our tastes when it comes to that particular. I almost want to call Nicolas Cage a subgenre. That particular grouping of films. This episode, we have a lot fewer films to get through, and I'm happy to say that there's not a lot of movies that I have seen of Adam Sandler's that you haven't, but there's more than just the one that
it's 2. I think there was 2.
We thought it was 2. It was Weatherman and Snake Eyes. But then when I started describing Weatherman, you said, "Oh yeah, I did see that. I forgot about it."
Oh yeah, so, I forgot about the fact that I forgot about
it. That's how forgettable that movie is to you.
To me, yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna go through the list of movies that you and I have both seen, and then in the end we'll finish up with the 3 that we have that I've seen that you haven't.
So again, this is disclaimer to anybody who didn't catch the last episode. These are only the movies on their filmography that we have actually seen. There were several that I knew I was not going to enjoy, so I never watched them. And there's actually a couple that I kind of want to see. I just haven't quite made it to see it.
Right. And also, of course, the standing spoiler warning that appears at the beginning of every episode is still in effect. There will be potential spoilers for all of these movies, as for all media that we talk about as we go along. But yeah, I want to start off with Little Nicky. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my friend, to hear that you've subjected yourself to this.
You just had to start at the bottom of the barrel, huh?
I mean,
You
it's
dug real deep to get the crap out of the way first.
see what sparked this is that you talked about, not seeing some movies because you knew that it was going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And so Jack and Jill and Little Nicky are definitely on that list for me. I saw the trailer and I noped straight out of that situation. Like that's just nope. But you have seen Little Nicky and lived to tell about it.
Yes. So let's just start with, just because make this official, it is a bad movie. And yes, he contributes a lot to it, considering I think he wrote it. So
Yeah, I think so.
so that can all get thrown on him. So it's definitely a because of. So the story behind me seeing that was just I have a friend. We have very, very, very few overlapping taste in movie. I'm like, it's almost a guaranteed, as if he likes the movie, I will not. And if I like it, he will not. There's a very, like on your Venn diagrams, we're talking the circles are practically barely overlapping, almost not touching at all. So I've seen a lot of movies that I've hated because, high schooler, young adult, college, you're over hanging out with your friend, he puts on a movie and you don't really have anything else to do, so you sit there and watch the crap. Or at least I do, because I have a masochistic streak a mile wide.
Yeah, I mean, I'm beginning to learn just how all encompassing that masochistic streak is. Because my God, Little Nicky. Like,
so
I assume this is the same friend you were talking about that made you watch The Stupids.
Yes, it is.
So like The Stupids is forgivable, but like making you watch Little Nicky, I mean that's like war crime level shit. Like that's unforgivable in my book.
I've made him watch a lot of movies he felt the exact same way about, so it's kind of an even give or take,
Okay. So it's funny because just instinctively putting the movie on the board, I wound up dragging it into the good because of box in our Foursquare here, and like that's the last time that movie will ever exist in that box. So I'm dragging it down to bad movies because Adam Sandler.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So let's see. Let's talk about some of the more obscure stuff. So we've got Dirty Work. And now I forget his name.
Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald. Yeah, it's obviously a Norm Macdonald movie because the poster is nothing but Norm Macdonald with a shitting grin on his face. I don't like Norm Macdonald just in general. Just to put that out there, I never thought he was funny in anything I've seen him
in. I always thought he was kind of funny, and then I went and saw him live at a stand-up, and I actually enjoyed his opening act way more than him. I just really didn't find his set that funny. I think that's probably after that I kind of stopped really enjoying his comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him in like several daises that for different comedy roasts. I don't think he's funny there. The bits I've seen from Saturday Night Live, I don't think he's funny there.
I always liked his bits he did with the Weekend Update, though.
Yeah, I gotta admit I haven't seen much of that or any of that actually. Now that I think about it for a second, but like yeah, I just don't think he's funny like a lot. I did watch some of the Norm Macdonald show when he had his own TV show. When he played a social worker. I don't know why I watched so many of that episodes of that, because it was me sitting there literally going, uh, "This guy's not funny." I think it was maybe another family member who had control of the remote, wanted to watch it, and that's how I wound up watching something that I didn't like.
Okay.
But yeah, so you can take all of the stuff I said about
Norm Macdonald.
no, not Norm Macdonald,
Oh,
the comedian I was talking about in the last episode, um, Spider Ham.
John Mulaney. Mulaney.
John Mulaney. Yeah, you can take all the stuff I said about John Mulaney not being funny, multiply it times 1,000, and then you've got my feelings on Norm Macdonald. So anyway, now that I'm done shit talking Norm Macdonald, Adam Sandler had a bit part in this movie, right?
It's kind of like a cameo. I'm gonna say I really enjoyed the movie. Basically, a guy is kind of a loser, doesn't really have much going for him, but he's really good about getting back at people that have wronged him. He's like the greatest revenge taker. Him and his friend, when like I think it's like his father needs help, paying for a medical bill. As if that storyline hasn't been done a billion times. Him and his friends start a revenge business. You want to get revenge on somebody, you hire us, and we'll pull pranks and stuff and get revenge on them for treating you wrong. And I found it pretty funny. I'm going to put it in a good movie in spite of.
Okay.
Because honestly, I didn't remember that Adam Sandler was in that movie until I looked it up on IMDb.
Okay.
So and like I said, it's just a cameo, so it doesn't really have, like, he really had no real bearing on that film because he wasn't even credited for it.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, he wasn't credited on the film. He's credited.
Right. I looked at IMDb and it said, Satan uncredited. So he was credited on IMDb as being uncredited.
Right.
So speaking of bit parts and cameo roles, Mixed Nuts.
Okay, that's another one that's going to be a good movie. I actually just recently watched it not too long ago again because I was like, I haven't seen this in forever. It's Steve Martin. There's all kind of an ensemble cast. Madeline Kahn's in it. I can't remember who all else. But basically a guy trying to run like a suicide prevention hotline that is kind of like a local one. It's not like a national, it was local. Is running low on funding. Things just aren't working out, and it's Christmas Eve, and everything starts to go to crap. And it's one of those, what do we call it? The slapstick chaos where, mistaken identity, just anything that can go wrong goes wrong type comedies. He's got Adam Sandler has a very small part in that. And I honestly got to say it was good in spite, because I think somebody else could have played that part and it would have been just as good. Like, I didn't really feel like he had any bearing on the film at all. He was just a body.
Interesting.
I mean, though it was a typical Adam Sandler early part of playing the shy, quiet man-child. But I think that's I don't think it was really written that way. I think that's just kind of how he played the character.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody else might have played it differently.
So, just to keep in theme with bit parts and voiceovers, the Zookeeper.
I have not seen that one. I saw enough of the trailer to know that I was not interested.
Oh, that's right. This is one of the ones that I saw. I broke my own rules here, and so I'm getting into one of the ones that I saw that you didn't. So yeah, I saw Zookeeper. We watched it on a streaming service one day when my niece wanted to see it, and so yeah, it's pretty. It's I have a hard time saying it's pretty good. Um, it's what you expect from a Kevin James movie. So
Which is sad because he has the potential to be a really funny guy.
yeah, yeah, he does, and I just the only movie I will say the only movie I will say that I feel like he lived up to his potential, um, kind of. I don't know if he even did it in this movie, but Here Comes the Boom.
Yeah, actually, I thought we went and saw that together.
We did, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and I agree with you. I thought he did a really good job in that. I really liked that movie. That's actually one I don't mind watching again. I also have to say Hitch, the romantic comedy with Will Smith.
he wasn't bad in that. Yeah. Yeah, Here Comes the Boom is a sentimental favorite of mine because not only did we go watch that one together, but that was the review, or we actually did record a review of that. That was part of our first and only episode of the Opinionated
Yeah.
series. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm gonna say good movie in spite of Adam Sandler because again I forgot he did a voice in this, and I'm gonna take it out and put it back into the in spite of category again because I'm gonna say it was a good movie in spite of Kevin James, because what carried that movie was the emotional plot line of some of the animals. Like once they start talking to him, you learn about things that are going on with them, and so it's really more about the animals than it is the zookeeper himself. And they got some, I mean, like outside of Adam Sandler, they got some top line voice acting talent. Um, Cher, if I remember correctly, voices a character in that movie. So like it was a good movie, but you know um I don't remember Adam Sandler being in there, so good movie in spite of. Just randomly picking here, I'm gonna say The Longest Yard.
Longest Yard, remake of the old Burt Reynolds film.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I like the original better. Because that's usually the way it is with remakes. They're just not quite as good as the original. You just gotta kind of cross your fingers and hope they don't screw it up. Which they didn't with this one.
I was really worried about that. Like I don't particularly myself care about football, and so as an extension of that, I don't particularly care about football movies. But I looked at the trailer for this and I was like, oh, there's real potential to be way off the mark compared to what the original was.
Yeah, that's there were comedic tones to it, but it was generally serious. And I think that's like if they would have leaned into the comedy more, that would have really thrown it off. And I know with Chris Rock and Adam Sandler in two of the lead parts, it's kind of like, oh, this is a like, do I watch? Do I not watch? This is a train wreck in the making. And then surprisingly, it stayed on the track and went right on down the road like it was supposed to. To stick with my bad analogy there.
Really bad analogy, because you said on the road, and like as you pointed out the sentence before, trains run on tracks, not roads.
Same difference.
For roads, where we're going, we don't need roads because this is a train.
Honestly, I think it's going to be another one that's a good movie in spite of, because I really do kind of feel like somebody else could have played that part and it would have worked pretty much just as well.
So do you feel like that's a statement on his acting in that film, or do you feel like that's a statement more on the fact that it's an ensemble cast?
I want to say it's his acting, but that's just because I want to say it's his acting. I'm going to say it's actually probably more that it was an ensemble cast. And even though he had the lead role and he did a good job in it, I do kind of feel like somebody else could have done a good job in it too, since they had the right support for the supporting cast. So,
okay. So, good movie in spite of. All right. And I'm just curious to hear what you have to say about it. Coneheads.
Coneheads. I have not seen that in, I think that came out in the 90s. I saw it in the theater, and I don't think I've seen it since.
Oh, wow.
That being said, I enjoyed it, and it would be so I would put it in a good movie. I mean, they actually, I think about the only other movie I've seen that was based on a Saturday Night Live skit that was any good or was better. I guess I can think of two of them that I would say was better than Coneheads. That would be Wayne's World and the Blues Brothers. And Blues Brothers is kind of a gray area because it wasn't.
But wait a minute, you're forgetting Wayne's World 2 and Blues Brothers 2000.
I'm trying to, yes. Shut up. He was in it. I remember vaguely him being in it, but it was a small part. So I really don't feel like he had much bearing on how good the movie was. So it is going to be a good movie in spite.
Okay, good movie in spite of. By the way, I just want to throw this in here. We've been talking about how you see a trailer, and like a lot of what determines whether you're going to see an Adam Sandler movie is based on how cringy the trailer is. One of the movies that's not on the list, because neither one of us have seen it, is You Don't Mess with the Zohan. That was one of the ones where I wasn't like, it wasn't like, Jack and Jill or Little Nicky levels of no, red flags everywhere. Absolutely not. Danger, yeah. Will Robinson, danger. But I was like, this has the potential to be a train wreck. And so I avoided it. And I wanted to, during this week, go back and actually watch You Don't Mess with the Zohan, just to give it an actual chance and report on it. But That didn't happen. Didn't have time for it. But it was, there's Adam Sandler movies where you see a trailer for it and you're like, absolutely not. And there's ones where you see it and you're like, oh, it's probably gonna be pretty good. But then there's the ones that fall into that gray
area. Yeah. Honestly, that was one of the ones that I kind of thought that masochistic streak reared its head a little bit, where I'm like, this is probably going to be crap, but I might actually kind of want to see it, because it might not be. Like, it had a couple of things, I don't remember specifics, but it had a couple of things in the trailer that I'm like, well, that was actually kind of funny. But then my natural disinclination to watch an Adam Sandler film, because I always think of Little Nicky and one other film that we haven't got to yet that I really dislike. And I think, oh no, Adam Sandler, it's going to be crap. Don't watch it. So that's why I have never actually gotten around to watching it, even though it was one that piqued my interest enough that I might give it a try.
Like, at that point in my life, I hadn't really gotten in touch with my masochistic streak and learned about So Bad It's Good movies. And so, so I avoided it because, like, now I would, have waited for it to come out on video and, like, actually watched it. But at the time, I was like, let's just put that in the no category.
Oh, yeah. That was definitely one that I would never have gone to see in the theater. I would have waited till it came to video.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably by the time it came to video, I had talked myself out of watching it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, just looking at the movie poster for this one, when I saw it, I was like, dude, that looks dope as fuck. Why haven't I not watched this? The Do-Over.
It was okay. I mean, all right, since we're going on the binary good or bad, I would put it in the good category. It's really kind of in the middle to me.
So it's more meh.
Yeah, it was more of a meh. And I'm actually gonna say because of. I think it was more because of his chemistry with like what keeps it from being a bad movie was his chemistry with David Spade, the way they played off of each other. I mean, it wasn't a David Spade, Chris Farley level of charisma playing off one another, but it was still made the film interesting.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, it probably would have been a bad
movie. Okay. So, kind of on the line, I put that on the line between good and bad, and we'll keep it on the because of side of the chart. Just to follow that up, Bulletproof.
Again, I haven't seen that since it was in the theaters.
I remember back in the day seeing the TV spots for this and seeing the movie poster and thinking, oh, that's pretty cool. Adam Sandler in an action comedy.
Yeah, I would probably put it right next to the Do-Over. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't great. And what made it enjoyable was Damon Wayans. Because I'm not a big Damon Wayans fan either. Like, sometimes stuff he does really works, and then sometimes stuff just doesn't work for me. But the way he played off of Adam Sandler made that film enjoyable to me. Otherwise, it was just kind of run of the mill. So, yeah, it was kind of
the way it goes, though. With a uh, a buddy duo action movie, is that it is the chemistry.
Yeah,
It's
well, I mean that's what makes or breaks those films. Yeah,
right, and so for it to be the saving grace of that film, that's really not that surprising, because for some people that's going to be the main thing that they're looking for in
yeah. Well, I mean, if you enjoy buddy cop films, um, it's definitely not one of the best, but there are definitely a lot worse out there. So, uh, I wouldn't say avoid it, but I wouldn't seek it out either, unless you're a diehard uh, Adam Sandler or a diehard Damon Wayans fan. But if it's on television,
it. The
you don't
two
need to.
diehard Damon Wayans fans out there.
I'm sure they exist. I'm not one of them, but
Let's hear. Okay, bedtime stories.
um, I remember, like, I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I actually really enjoyed it. I don't really remember much about it. It's something where, like, somehow he's telling his daughter these stories, and when something about some MacGuffin or something causes the stories to actually come true.
Right.
So I'm gonna say good movie. I'm gonna say In Spite, just because like I only have vague impressions, so I can't really say like he contributed anything to really make me like it, but he didn't do anything to make me hate it either. And I generally remember thinking I enjoyed watching the movie. Like I didn't waste my time watching it. So
yeah, it was a fun premise, and again, I remember seeing the TV spots for it back in the day. But I felt like they set up the premise and everything in the trailer, in the TV ad, so I felt like I kind of saw, I mean, of course, I don't know, I mean, I know that, these bedtime stories start coming true when he starts trying to turn those stories in his favor to like help himself out in life and in that way, because he's kind of like down and out in his life at that point, and wants to help himself out and enrich himself through this thing that he's discovered. But and so I don't really know how that conflict gets resolved, but I don't really care that much. But I feel like it's one of those things where I feel like I've seen the best parts of the movie already in the trailer.
well, like I said, I don't. It's been so long since I've seen it, and since I've seen the trailer, I couldn't comment on that.
Okay.
I don't remember the trailer making that big of an impression on me. It was enough to get me interested in going to see the film. So,
Okay, fair. Airheads.
good movie. And I'm going to say In Spite of.
Ooh, did not expect that.
Really, I just don't feel like he really contributed anything to it. Like it felt like Steve Buscemi and Brendan Fraser was doing all the heavy lifting, and he was there.
I know. I don't know. I mean, it's a movie I haven't seen. Why are you co-hosting a movie podcast if you haven't seen any movies, Jasper?
Well, I know why you got me to be in the podcast, because I have seen all the movies. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
all the movies.
I wish. No, I don't wish I could see all the movies. I wish I could see all the movies I want to see.
There you go. It's like a buffet. It's like they say it's all you can eat, but it's really all you care to eat. You're going to be eating just what you want and the correct amounts of those things, not all you can physically hold of whatever's in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, so I haven't seen the movie, but I just assumed that it was, an ensemble cast, Adam Sandler. I figured he probably contributed to like a third of the comedy in that movie.
It's one of his early films, so it's what he played in early films. A quiet, shy man-child. So he really didn't stand out much.
Okay.
Like I said, all the heavy lifting was done by Steve Buscemi and Brendan Fraser. And I know this is going to come as a shock to you. As much as I love Steve Buscemi, Brendan Fraser was doing most of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, given the time that the movie came out, that was Brendan Fraser's heyday.
Yeah.
But speaking
I also have a very personal love of that film because it's loosely based on a true story. Or I guess you should say it was inspired by a true story. Because in it, it's three metalheads that are having trouble getting a record deal and getting on the radio, take a rock station hostage to force them to play that music, which is all BS. That's not the true part. But they discovered that the radio station that was the big heavy metal rock station that everybody loved was about to go switch formats without telling anybody that it was going to an easy listening. And I lived in Southern California when this movie came out, and there was shortly, before this movie came out, there was a radio station that was a big heavy metal alternative rock station that everybody loved, that we turned on one day and all of a sudden it's easy listening. They didn't tell anybody. Out of the blue. So that the whole fact that I know about what that inspired that part of the story just kind of gives me like I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain. I love that radio station. I can't believe they did that to us.
Yeah. And they never switched back?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, I guess there was money to be had in playing easy listening.
Pretty much, yeah.
But speaking of Adam Sandler playing a man-child, Billy Madison.
Okay, there's the second film I referred to earlier. I really dislike Billy Madison. I found the whole movie stupid and juvenile and a prime example of what I don't like about Adam Sandler's humor, with the exception of one scene. And even then, they kind of took it a little too far. It's where he kind of realizes he was a jerk, and bullied this kid. And then he calls him up and apologizes, and played by Steve Buscemi. And he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem. All right, I appreciate you calling and apologizing." And Adam Sandler's, Billy Madison's like, "That was easy." And then it shows the guy that was being bullied reaches over, grabs a list of names of people to kill, and crosses his name off. And I just, because he was going to get revenge, or it says to get revenge. And then he crosses his name off like, okay, I don't need revenge against him because he apologized to me. Mm-hmm. And then he puts on lipstick for no apparent reason.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, that is most definitely, in my opinion, a bad movie because of Adam Sandler.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just okay. That makes me feel good because, like, yeah, the trailers and things that I saw for that movie back in the day, I was like, yeah, probably best to avoid that one. And so it's good to know that my instincts were correct on that. Ridiculous Six.
Uh, Bad movie. Um, I don't know, I'll put it as a meh. Um, because of, again, it's a lot of Adam Sandler humor that some of it works, some of it doesn't. Um, it it's more. It was an ensemble cast, and some of the ensemble is what kind of made it work as little as it did. You know, otherwise it would have been a completely bad movie. So, but if I had to force, if you twisted my arm to choose between good and bad, I would go with bad.
Mm.
And a lot of offensive humor.
So it's an old west themed movie.
Yeah, it's an old west where basically a guy discovers that his dad got around the old west, and he has 5 other brothers he's never met. So he goes on a quest to find them.
Yeah, that sounds stupid.
There might have been more to it. I watched it when it first came out on Netflix. When I had time to kill over at a friend's house, and he's like, "Here, just watch something on Netflix." When I was waiting on him for some reason, I don't even remember what it was. And yes, this is the same friend that made me watch Little Nicky. So I chose to watch Ridiculous Six, and because of that masochistic streak that rears its ugly head every now and then. And I will admit, there were some things about it I found that I enjoyed. I don't remember what they are now, but I remember having that sensation of like, okay, that was kind of funny. But overall, it was a bad movie. So the best I can, like, you have it lined up right on the line between the two. I'd pull it down so where it's just a little bit over the line. Because it was mostly a bad movie with just a little bit of good in it.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Okay.
That feels a more accurate representation of my opinion of that movie.
All right. So bit of a palate cleanser. Punch Drunk Love.
Okay. In all honesty, I have not seen the entirety of the film. I have only seen about half of it.
That's why it's in parentheses when you gave me this list.
When I sent you the list, it's because I'd seen it partially. The part I did see, about the first half, I really, really liked. And I thought he did a really good job in it. He made the character likable and believable for the circumstances of, why he is the way he is, when he's got the older sisters that are constantly berating him and domineering his life.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it is a good movie because of, at least the parts I saw.
Our first good movie because of, and it's disqualified because
you're the one choosing the order of these. I'll tell you the honest. I can tell you right now. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'll say it now. In my opinion, there will not be a movie in the bad in spite of. because I have not seen a bad movie with Adam Sandler that I felt he did a good job. I felt like he contributed to every bad movie he's been in.
Mm-hmm. He contributed to the badness of the bad movies.
Yeah, so in my opinion, there will not be a movie in that corner. Now, if you choose the one that you feel like it belongs in there,
we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I mean, I'm disappointed in you because I sent you a message. I said, can you send me a list of the Adam Sandler movies you've seen, not the Adam Sandler movies you've seen half of.
Well, I wasn't sure whether or not
if we were going to talk about movies that we've partially seen, then I would have put Big Daddy on. Because
I honestly I couldn't remember if I had put that on the list. When you asked me when we were talking about whether or not to put Big Daddy, and I back when I was actually putting the list together, I'm like, we had talked about how I'd only seen part of it before. And that's why on the list I put it in parentheses, because I'm like, I've seen a good chunk of it. Just
it was in parentheses, like maybe next time put I've only seen part of it instead of parentheses.
Or in the future, when I give you a list, if it's in parentheses, it means I've only seen part of it.
How about in the future, when I ask for a list, you leave off the ones you haven't seen all of it?
Well, where's the fun in that? Okay, anyways.
It depends on your definition of fun.
Annoying you.
Oh, well, this will do it, yeah.
This many years in our friendship and you haven't learned that? That's my definition of fun.
I thought, maybe hoped you had matured a little bit. That's not happening.
Not if I can help it.
So in the serious movie vein, also of course going to go for Reign Over Me next.
Good movie because of I really thought he did a good job as the guy who's traumatized, and kind of his behavior. He doesn't quite realize that it's not right. And he plays off of Don Cheadle really well. There's a lot of films in his filmography that I would say he himself, it's his chemistry with his co-star that makes the film work.
Yeah. So is this a everything must go type situation where, like, it's somebody that you don't like as a comedic actor, but you admire them as a dramatic actor because of what they're able to pull off when they do a dramatic role?
Pretty much, yeah. It's been saying it for years. Comedians make the best dramatic actors, and the more I dislike them as a comedian, the better I tend to like them as a dramatic actor. Pardon me.
Yeah. So
I thought it was really
that certainly seems to hold true here, because the only two we have being good because of, like, all the way in the good because of category are Punch Drunk Love and Reign Over Me. So where do we go from here? Click.
I swear you're psychic, man, because I was just looking at that one, thinking about what my answer was going to be. So that one, I'm going to say it was a good movie because I really enjoyed it. And I think it needs to go on the line between because of and in spite of. Because I thought he did, like, in the dramatic parts of the story, he does a really good job of conveying the drama and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's got to have some of his Adam Sandler style sense of humor potty jokes that just really kind of ruin the thing.
Yeah.
So,
There's one that's left on the list here where I feel like Adam Sandler style humor really ruins some potentially good scenes. And I'll talk more about that when we hit that movie. But yeah, I really liked Click.
I'm sorry.
I really liked Click.
I think it was a good movie. I think it could have been a much better movie with a different actor.
So, do we want to put this?
No. I think it is good, and it's kind of halfway between because of and halfway, in spite of. Right. I'm just saying, it's a good movie. It could have been a great movie.
Yeah, I feel that. So there's what I find interesting about this movie, because I was talking to my mom about these episodes earlier today, and I was saying that when you do the analysis of the movie, because it's a movie I haven't seen in a lot of cases, I'm over here doing color commentary, and so one of the things that I find interesting about this movie in my color commentary role here is that it's very much derivative of an episode of the Jetsons. There's an episode of the Jetsons where George is regretting a lot of things in his life, and his car breaks down, so he has to take the bus, and he ends up meeting this guy on the bus who's an inventor and has this remote control where you can rewind and fast forward your life and even erase things. And so he says, if anything goes wrong, you just come back to this moment in time where I sold you the remote, and I will not sell you the remote, and then everything in your life will go back to normal. He says, okay. So he buys the remote and he goes back in time, and he's feeling jealous about one of Jane's old boyfriends. And so he erases the day that Jane got kissed by that guy. But he didn't pay attention to what he was erasing, and he wound up erasing their wedding day, where he was just going through the line and kissing her, on the cheek, and congratulations on them being married. And so then the whole episode kind of turns into It's a Wonderful Life a little bit, because his life is different now. But ultimately, he goes back to that moment on the bus and doesn't buy the remote from the guy, and his life goes back to normal. But it's just interesting, like how many, like if this screenplay was not derived directly from that episode of the Jetsons, it's a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah, some surprising similarities there.
Yeah, I mean, and Thomas Tom Scott Ridgewell, somewhat famous YouTuber, he did a video recently about, I forget exactly what he called it, but like coincidental thinking or something like that, where it's like somebody has an idea and somebody else has another similar idea, and then they but it's just a coincidence. It's just like two people had a similar thought. It's not that one was stealing something from another.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what's happened here because, like I say, they're too similar for it to just be coincidental. But
Yeah, it's like the Battle Royale Hunger Games thing.
right, exactly.
Because I did it when Hunger Games first, when I first heard about Hunger Games, I was already familiar with Battle Royale, and I was of the thought that Hunger Games stole from it. Yeah, but then I went ahead and read the books, and I was like, oh, okay, this is different enough that I could really believe now that, like the author said, that no, they had thought of this idea on their own. It just happened to be similar to another idea. So,
okay. So let's see. I assume that you have different opinions on these, and so we'll tackle them individually. But so we'll start with Hotel Transylvania 1.
oh boy. I hate movies like this where it's like, I don't want to call it a good movie, but I didn't hate it. Like, is this good? Like, did I enjoy it because of him, or did I enjoy it in spite of him? I think I'm going to say good because. And again, it boils down to I enjoyed it because of the chemistry and playing off one another between Selena Gomez, Adam Sandler, and Andy Samberg. They bounced off each other really well. So,
and shout out to Gendy Tartakovsky, who I believe was the director for these films.
For the first one, at least. I'm not 100% sure he was for the next two, but
yeah, I'm not for sure on that. But from what I've seen of the first movie, he introduced a lot of squash and stretch animation, which was, is really very cartoony and very nice to see because it's not employed, very much. I think a lot of cartoonists go for more realistic physics and more realistic body dimensions these days. And I'm going to stop there because otherwise I'll start a TED talk on animation, modern animation versus old school animation. But Gendy Tartakovsky, great talent, and is kind of getting a raw deal in Hollywood. But anyway, Hotel Transylvania 2.
Say honestly, I'm probably going to put all three of them in the good because of.
Okay.
Because I think, and again, it's all for the same reason. He played well against the ones he interacted with. Mainly, he played well against. Honestly, my favorite of the three is the third movie.
Oh.
I really enjoyed it. I found it more interesting than I did the other two. Even though I went in going, like, the only reason why I actually saw the third one was when I went with your sister and your nephew to go see a movie. we wound up taking the both your nephew and your niece, and kids film. Okay, yeah, I'll go watch it. Thank you for inviting me along. I think I wound up enjoying it more than anybody else. But so yeah, I mean, again, like if it wasn't for how well he played off against people, it would probably be in spite of, because as they proved with the fourth movie, you didn't actually need Adam Sandler to play the part of Adam Sandler as Dracula. So
Yeah. Okay. The Wedding Singer.
I love that movie, so it is a good movie, and I'm actually going to say it's because of, and again, it's because uh, he toned down a lot of the usual Adam Sandler humor in it. He played um, the more straight parts. He played well, uh, and again, it's kind of like the Will Ferrell in Stranger Than Fiction. Even though it's a comedy, and I don't really like their comedy performance, they actually played the straight guy, as in the straight man,
Yeah.
a normal, everyday, average person in a not so normal, everyday, average person situation, and how they reacted, and then the chemistry between him and Drew Barrymore just really worked for a romantic comedy. So, so yeah, that's I really do enjoy it, and I think also part of the reason why I love it so much is I do kind of have a bit of nostalgia goggles for the 80s.
Yeah.
And I just love. I mean, yeah, they're obvious, but I still love the jokes. The ex-girlfriend shows up out of the blue wearing his Van Halen t-shirt. Take off the shirt before you jinx and break up the band. The going with Drew Barrymore to help her plan her wedding to the douchebag that she's engaged to, and the lady that's like an organizer's. Oh yeah, I can always tell the couples it'll always last. And Bert and Lonnie, and she says like 2 or 3 others I don't remember offhand, but they're all famous couples that were together in the 80s but were broken up by the time that movie was made. I like little wink wink nod jokes like that. So
yeah, as long as they're not done too much, and they're not
or too heavy handedly.
Right.
Like when they do it, when they did it in that film, it didn't feel like it was forced in. It felt like it fit naturally.
Yeah. That's the problem with a lot of those type of jokes, is they get shoehorned in. The Water Boy.
I liked it. I really did. I just don't know if I can call it a movie.
Okay, so what? Well, no, I already know the answer to that. I was gonna say, well, if you liked it, how can it not be a good movie? But carpool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how you can end up liking a movie and it still not being a good movie.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna say good movie in spite of, because I really feel like it's more some of the supporting cast, like Henry Winkler as the coach, or Kathy Bates as his mother, that really made that movie, kept that movie afloat. If it was just Adam playing the character he's playing, it would have got old fairly quick.
Oh yeah. If it was just him playing the character, then there wasn't enough material there for a proper Saturday Night Live sketch, much less a feature film.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Henry Winkler and Kathy Bates, they added so much to the movie. And what one of my favorite jokes from that movie is, it's set up by Kathy Bates' activities all the way through the movie. Every time she doesn't like something, she says it's the demo.
Yeah.
And then
The
do what? Yeah,
Foosball is the devil.
Foosball is the devil. Yeah, and and then when she finds out he's dating Vicky Valancourt, I don't like that Vicky Valancourt. Vicky Valancourt the devil. So like, there's that whole thing. But then she's in the hospital, and she's unconscious, and it's New Year's, and he turns on the TV, and Dick Clark is on the TV on New Year's Eve, and he's like, "Look who it is, Mama. It's the devil." Like at some point she had said Dick Clark was the devil, and I just love that joke so much.
So yeah, definitely a good. I would say it was a good movie in spite of. That's right.
Because he didn't carry the movie himself.
Huh?
Because he didn't carry the movie himself.
Yeah.
Because I don't. I take exception to that. I take exception to that assessment, good sir.
Okay, so I'm confused because I swore you were just agreeing with me that there wasn't enough to that character to have held the movie, that it was actually the supporting cast that held the movie, so that would make it a good movie in spite of him.
But usually when we put movies in the good movie in spite of category, it's because you could replace them with somebody else and the movie would still function. I don't think that The Waterboy would be the same movie without Adam Sandler as Bobby Boucher.
Well, I kind of see it as, in spite of his best attempts to ruin it, it wound up a good movie.
Ouch.
So put it in the middle. Put it on the line in the middle so we can agree to disagree.
No. It's fine. I'll leave it where it is in the in spite of category, and the entire fan base, our massive swell of fans that we have now, they'll all know that it's your fault.
Okay.
Happy Gilmore.
Swear you're psychic. We just know each other. We think on the same wavelength. That's actually one I would say is a good movie because of him. All right. I don't know. I guess you could kind of put it on the line right there with Click, because it's got Adam Sandler humor in it, and I don't always necessarily care for his humor. So it's like, it'll be really funny, it'll be going, and then he'll throw in a joke that's just like, really? Did you really have to bring that in? That's just not funny.
I don't know. I was talking before about a movie that gets ruined or nearly ruined by Adam Sandler type humor. This is not that movie. That movie is still to come. So but so what I will say about my opinion on that specific aspect of Happy Gilmore, because I have seen Happy Gilmore dozens of times. Like, this is this goes like, last time I mentioned that I used to be part of the Columbia House Movie Club, and I got like 5 VHS tapes for however many cents. I think it was like 5 VHS for 25 cents or 29 cents or something like that. And I remember there was The Rock and Happy Gilmore. Those were 2 of them. As far as what the other ones were, I completely forget. But Happy Gilmore is a movie that I watch whenever I'm sick. It always makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I think the over the top Adam Sandler-esque humor works here because it's kind of a universe that's built around that. Like they establish right from the beginning the crazy, ridiculous slap shot that he has and how that translates to his golf career and stuff. So where it's like they'll be having a normal moment in another movie, and then whammo, here's the Adam Sandler humor, Sandler-esque humor, I guess is the way to say that. Here I feel like it works because like the moments that don't have that actually feel like the weird parts.
All in all, though, I mean, I enjoy most of the film, and even some of the wacky out there Adam Sandler type humor. I mean, and it is way toned down compared to a lot of his other films.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like for me, it's like the Waterboy in the fact that it does feel like Adam Sandler was trying to sink the movie at times. The difference is that it wasn't just the supporting cast that was holding it up. He had built enough, even by his own performance in that film, to keep it up, despite trying to sabotage.
Disagree. Hard disagree. What are you talking about? Him trying to sink his own movie? I mean, this movie, like, this isn't one of those movies where we put it in spite of because it would have been as good as or better with a different actor in it, because like Adam Sandler is Happy Gilmore. Like the whole thing of like you stupid ball, that's your home. You're too good for your home. Go home, ball. Like that whole thing. That's not him trying to sink the movie. That's Happy Gilmore. That's who that character is.
Well, I don't really feel like that necessarily was one. Honestly, I'm not.
I'm just picking.
Like, I'm not coming up, like, when I'm thinking about it, I'm not really coming up with any specific examples in my mind. Just, I have this general overall feeling like there were parts that were just felt like it was unnecessary and really against the grain for that movie. And the humor.
But I'm sorry, I'm not coming up with it. I don't. Okay. I can't think of any.
Well, we're adults, and unlike in politics, we're capable of agreeing to disagree. And not that we necessarily disagree in politics. I'm talking about in general how, in this day and age, people that when they talk about politics can't agree to disagree. I'm saying we're adults, we can't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm passive on a lot of these reviews because, quite frankly, a lot of these movies I haven't seen. And then the ones that I have, I think you're usually pretty close to spot on, but I can't think of anything in his performance that was trying to tank the movie. And to your own admission, now that you're saying that, you can't think of it either. So,
well, instead of arguing a point that is pointless.
No, I'm not trying to argue a point that's pointless. I'm trying to foster discussion here. But at this point, I guess we're at an impasse. But I would like to leave it on the good because of line, side of the line.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I pretty much feel like it belongs on that side. If I was in control of it, I would put it slightly over on the line between because of and in spite of. But you don't have to do that. We can agree to disagree. My opinion doesn't have to rule. Not that much. I said slightly.
I mean, it's not really by percentages, but okay.
It makes me feel better.
Okay.
Just like we did with Ridiculous Six,
Yeah. Okay.
Trying to do a little bit of a visual representation of how I feel about these movies.
Mm-hmm.
So those of you who are listening to this on a podcast, you need to go to YouTube and watch the video.
Or go to our website once it's up. We'll have the full chart posted there. Let's see here. Mr. Deeds.
I'm going to say good in spite of. And that's because it falls into the same category as most of it, where I kind of feel like you could pull him out and put somebody else in, and it probably would have been as good. Plus a little bit of him throwing in his type of humor that was not necessarily appropriate for the film. It's a remake of an old Jimmy Stewart film.
Mr. Deeds Goes to Town.
Yeah. Which, is that a Frank Capra film too, or is that just...
Pretty sure. Yeah, I think so.
I was thinking it was a Frank Capra, but...
Yeah. Yeah. So, I pretty much wholeheartedly agree. This is the movie that I've been hinting to this whole time about, like, scenes where normal things are happening and then Adam Sandler-esque humor gets thrown in. Like, for some reason, pardon my language, goddamn reason, Adam Sandler and the people he has as writing partners think it's funny for some character to just out of nowhere have superhuman strength. And they play with that a few times in this movie. Now, I saw Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. I knew I was gonna go see the movie in the theater. And so by coincidence or by planning of those people who do programming on television networks, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town was playing on AMC or Turner Movie Classics, I forget which one, and the night before. So I watched Mr. Deeds Goes to Town before I saw the remake. And Mr. Deeds is a character who's not one to back down from a fight. However, the whole, like, superhuman, like, pushing somebody and they go flying through a wall thing is ridiculous. And not in a particularly humorous way to me. It's not humor that lands with me. I don't even consider it humor. I just consider it like, I mean, I get what they're going for. It's hyperbole. But hyperbole in a vacuum, like hyperbole just for hyperbole's sake, is not funny. So yeah. I plus also it's an ensemble cast. You've got Crazy Eyes. So Steve Buscemi again. Who's the guy? You underestimate the sneakiness.
John Turturro?
John Turturro. I thought it was him, but I didn't want to say the wrong name. And I knew as soon as I put it out there, you'd be able to catch on to it. So Turturro, so John Turturro, and and then Winona Ryder also. So because it's not him carrying the movie per se. Plus the two people back in his hometown, like the woman and the
I haven't seen it. I only saw it once, and it was a long time ago.
okay. So suffice it to say, there are a lot of good actors. There's a lot of great, colorful characters that contribute to the film. It's not Adam Sandler carrying the movie by himself. So because
I saw it during my phase of watching pretty much anything that Steve Buscemi or John Turturro was in, and I was a pretty big fan of Winona Ryder. So those names stuck out to me in that film.
So
I'm sure there's probably a cameo somewhere in there of Rob Schneider, but
there is. There is, because I remember where the Rob Schneider cameo is in that movie, but yeah, there is one.
There's generally one in every film.
Yeah. That's one thing you can say about Adam Sandler is, like, if you're friends with him, you get work.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I have to admit, I did think it was kind of funny. There's the "You Can Do It" guy in Waterboy, played by Rob Schneider. And I had never saw the entirety of the film, but I do remember seeing the clip in one of Rob Schneider's films, because I generally avoided them like a plague. But like I said, I had the same friend that made me watch Little Nicky. I was over at his place and caught a little bit of one of Rob Schneider's films, and Adam Sandler was dressed the same and says, "You can do it." And I thought that was kind of neat that they played the same character in each other's film.
I forget which one that is. But
it's either the Animal or Hot Chick, because I think those are the only two that I've seen clips of.
Right. Well, that's unfortunately one of those things where I think they gave it away in the trailer. So, yeah.
Maybe I saw it in the trailer.
I want to say the Animal, which
no, I haven't watched in the entirety of a Rob Schneider film at all. So,
well, yeah, obviously, because you're alive and you would have died of exposure otherwise.
Just about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pixels.
This is going to be a controversial one. I actually really enjoyed the movie.
Shut up and get out.
So I will say it is a good movie. I actually liked Adam Sandler's part in the movie because he played more of a straight, normal character and not so much his usual wild, spastic, weirdo character. You know, it was more of a normal guy in a abnormal situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Despite the humor, some of the humor in it, trying to, like, again, I don't care for a lot of Adam Sandler humor. And of course, those, potty type jokes and sex jokes all made it in. And those are things I don't like about the movie.
But you feel like it wasn't enough to detract.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't until about an hour or two later I started going, some of that just wasn't that good. I mean, I still enjoyed the general premise. I enjoyed, for the most part, the performances. Josh Gad and why did his name blank out of my mind? From Game of Thrones. Peter Dinklage. Spectacular actor. And he played really against type in that movie. But I could have done without some of the jokes. So, But I know a lot of people really refer to that as one of his worst movies. So I know that's not going to be a popular opinion.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things like what I alluded to in the first episode of this podcast, where like I haven't seen this movie, but I've seen the CinemaSins video on this movie
Yeah.
about a dozen times. So like that, like I can't form, like even if I watch the movie now in its entirety, I couldn't form an objective opinion because I've got that in my head so ingrained. But it, yeah, I don't know. But I may someday give it a chance, because I value your opinion and you say you like it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and so good because of.
Yeah, good because of, and it's like, for me, this falls in a lot of the movies that he had something to do with the writing. It's good because of his performance. It's good in spite of his contributions to the script.
And so again, going back to my role as color commentator, just when I thought I didn't have anything to cut out of the episode. In my role as color commentator, like what I was saying before about Click and it being derivative of that Jetsons episode, the plot framework for Pixels feels very derivative of an episode of Futurama where they have space invaders come down and like they have to fight Donkey Kong, they have to fight the space invaders, which they actually do literally fight space invaders in this movie, right? I mean, I know
If I remember correctly, there's Pac-Man, Centipede, Donkey Kong, and Space Invaders, and then at the end, it's just kind of a free for all where it's, the Ready Player One. Let's just grab whatever, IP that people would know from classic games and bring them down for one big massive free for all. But
yeah, but unlike unlike Pixels, the premise that they set up in Ready Player One kind of makes sense for all those IPs to be combined in one place.
Well, let's not get into that right now.
Okay.
Like, I've read the book that it's based on, and the setup in the book is a lot better than they set up in the movie. That being said, I still think it was a fairly decent adaptation of the book.
Okay.
Not a great one, but a decent one.
Okay. So look forward to that in future installments, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen is going to give a more in-depth opinion on what he feels about Ready Player One, the movie adaptation, and that'll be a topic that we can shoehorn into a future episode pretty easily because the Ready Player Two is going to come
read
out.
That book too.
Yeah, I didn't know. Being somebody who I knew Ready Player One, the movie, was based on a book. I didn't know there was a Ready Player Two.
Yeah. He came out with a sequel like about a year or so after the Ready Player One movie.
Oh, okay. I
don't think I don't know if the sequel would have existed if the movie hadn't done as well as it did.
Of course. I mean, it's like Jurassic Park. Like they begged Crichton to write a follow up to Jurassic Park, and then they made a movie based on that, and then after that decided, hey, you know what? We don't actually need Crichton to write a book in order to crank these out. We can do it without him.
Explains a lot.
And that's how you get Jurassic Park 3. Yeah, so, but yeah, I look forward to having that conversation more in depth about Ready Player One, Ready Player 2. Thinking about it for a second, I actually remember that at the time the movie came out, I did purchase and download the Ready Player One book on my Kindle. I guess specifically to not read it because I that's how that played out. Okay, and so that leaves us with the other two movies. There were three movies total that I had seen that you had not. And so we already talked about one of those, Zookeeper. And so 50 First Dates. 50 First Dates is an incredibly good movie. And when I say an incredibly good movie, my sister, who you know very well, is a self-professed Adam Sandler hater. She will say, I hate Adam Sandler. She will say, I hate Adam Sandler movies. Yet, she will sit down and watch 50 First Dates from beginning to end. Same thing with Big Daddy, too, I think. So, I mean, are you even familiar with the premise to this movie?
Yes. So I've had this movie recommended to me. They said, if you like romantic comedies, you liked Wedding Singer, you're going to love this movie. I have a long list of movies I need to see, and I'm sorry, Adam Sandler movies tend to not get priority. But it is on my list of movies to see. And actually, for a while there, I was having trouble tracking down a copy when I was in a mood where I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch this movie. Now I can't find it anywhere.
We need to talk a little bit about addiction, because you say you have a lot of movies you need to see. Okay, you don't need to see these movies. I know it feels like a need. Like you think you need to see all the movies. You don't need to see all the movies. You want to watch movies because you're sick in the head.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm doing better this year than normal. I've only watched about 30 new movies so far this year. So I just haven't been watching as much as normal.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who want to compare, my average new movie is somewhere around about 80 to 100 a year, as in a movie I have never seen before. That does not count any movies I've seen before that I've rewatched. For this year, I think that might put it up to about 40. I mean, it's been a weird year. I just haven't watched a lot of movies.
You haven't watched a lot of movies. You said that you've only watched 30 to 40 new movies. How many movies have you gone back and rewatched this year?
No, that's what I'm saying. I've only watched about 30 new movies. And with ones that I've gone back and rewatched that I've seen before, it's around 40.
Wow. Okay, so the 30 new movies is not that impressive to me. The 40 total is more of an impressive number to me, because I could totally see you only seeing 30 new movies, but then going back and rewatching like 50.
Well, like I said, I tend to watch around 80 to 100 new movies, and then probably add about another 20 to 30 movies I've rewatched during the year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really a low year for me.
So, but going back to 50 First Dates, one thing I will say, like a lot of the movies that we've covered with the juvenile, what I'm calling Adam Sandler-esque humor, um, it exists in Mr. Deeds, it exists in Pixels, it exists in, if I remember correctly, in Click to a certain degree. It's all over the place in Happy Gilmore. Um, None of that exists in 50 First Dates. I can't think of one of those like outlandish, like where the fuck did that come from sort of like comedic breaks. That like he more or less plays it straight.
But I definitely do need to see this movie.
Yeah. So yeah, from me to you, I know that you do value my opinion on movies, and so I wouldn't steer you wrong, man. 50 First Dates, make room for it in your schedule.
All right.
And so then that leaves us with Uncut Gems. It's hard for me to be objective about this movie, specifically because I got to see it for free using Movie Pass. And we've never really talked about this, but like when you have no, it wasn't Movie Pass either. It was when I first got Stubbs A List. But anyway, that was between when Movie Pass died and when it was resurrected. Um, yeah, I just had first got uh, AMC Stubbs uh, uh, A List, and a brand new AMC movie theater had opened down the street from me in Austin. And so I was going and seeing movies like every Friday night. Um, and so we've never really talked about this, but when you have one of those services, it skews your opinion of the movie because it's way easier to say a movie was good, I enjoyed it, because you're not weighing it against like, did I actually feel like I was wasting my time? Did I actually enjoy that experience? Versus when you pay for a ticket, you're like, did I enjoy it enough to pay $15 for it? So there's like that whole extra variable, and it's weighted kind of heavily in your calculation because like when that variable isn't in there anymore, I find it way easier to recommend movies that I've seen on Movie Pass to say, yeah, I liked Happy Death Day. I liked this movie, that movie, and not think about, did I just blow a lot of money on seeing that?
Well, I will say I totally get where you're coming from. I know when I had Movie Pass, I did see a lot of movies in the theater that I probably never would have went to the theater to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can understand, but I don't know if I've ever really like I'm still almost just as critical of films of did I waste my time watching this, whether I pay for it or not. So
I
to
mean,
me, that's almost a non-factor when I'm deciding on whether or not I like the movie or
I don't know. I just like, I feel like
well, I'm just saying for me, it's like almost like it's like an extra criterion. Like, did I like the movie or not? Well, yes, I liked the movie. Okay, did I like it then it's a matter of, did I like it enough that it was worth what I paid to see it? Or did I like the movie? No, I did not. Okay. Now, how outraged am I going to be at this movie based on how much I paid to see it? You know.
Okay. So yeah. So like for me, it's like weighted higher in the calculation than it is for you. Yours, it's like anyway. What I will say is, when it comes to those types of services, Movie Pass, Stubbs A List, it's way easier to take a gamble on a movie. Happy Death Day, I took a gamble on that. The Gentleman, I took a gamble on that. Didn't like that movie.
Really?
I mean, it's just not my type of movie. I will not. I'm not disparaging anybody's performance or anything about it. It just I went into it. I took a gamble. Not my kind of movie.
I loved it, but I'm kind of a Guy Ritchie fan too. I've seen every movie he's done except for Swept Away, which was the vanity project he did with Madonna when they were married.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not. I went into it cold. This might be the first Guy Ritchie thing I've ever seen. So, didn't care for it, but went into it with pretty much no expectations. But this movie, Uncut Gems, took a gamble on it. Really liked it. It's a dramatic role. It's just like I'm not gonna say a whole lot because I don't want to spoil it. I don't care about so much about spoiling it for the audience, but like for you, I know you're eventually gonna see it, and I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Yeah, it's definitely been on my list of ones to see. I've heard nothing but good things about it and his performance.
Yeah.
I think part of the only reason why I haven't got around to watching it is I really do, even when I'm interested, I do kind of have an aversion to watching a film with Adam Sandler. I mean, if you really go back and look, the last, the newest thing I saw was that Hotel Transylvania 3, and that was what, 2017 maybe?
Yeah.
2018. And the only reason why I saw it was because your sister invited me to come along when she took the kids to see a movie.
Right.
Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bothered to watch it.
Right.
Because I'm like, there's something in the back of my, and I know it's all based on that bottom left corner, the because of bad movie. Right. That I despise Little Nicky and Billy Madison so much that it colors my perception of what an Adam Sandler movie is. So it's like whenever I hear, oh, Adam Sandler's in it, oh God, no, it's going to be another Little Nicky. Even though, honestly, you can see most of, well, if you're on YouTube, you can see that most of the films of his that I've seen, I've actually liked. But those two that I absolutely hate, I hate so much, it tends to make me pick, when I think of Adam Sandler movies in my mind, I think of bad movies.
It's like, who did this to you? Who hurt you? No, we know who hurt you. Little Nicky and Billy Madison hurt you. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think that, if I had ever seen Little Nicky, I think I would be mentally and emotionally scarred by it also. So
it was not a good movie at all.
But you need to try and fight those urges and get over it. And like, I mean, like, and I'm not saying get over it in general. I'm not saying you should watch his whole backlog, the entire filmology that you haven't watched. I'm not even saying you need to watch both Uncut Gems and 50 First Dates. I would recommend 50 First Dates. I think you need to get over it so you can watch Uncut Gems. Straight up. It's a it's an A24 film. A24, that's the production company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, for me, that's a seal of quality. I don't see many. I can't think of a A24 film that I've seen that I've disliked.
I'd say the same thing, other than the fact that A24 tends towards a genre of films that I generally don't watch. So I haven't really seen very many A24 films. But the ones I have seen, I have really enjoyed.
Like what genre would you put them in? Art house?
Well, no, most of what I'm familiar with, and I'm sure there's probably A24 films out there that I'm not familiar with, but the ones that I'm familiar with are all tend towards horror films. Because I actually kind of do like art house.
A24 was Sorry for Bothering You, or Sorry to Bother You.
That was an A24?
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure. And that had a horror movie twist to it.
Wasn't The Dead Don't Die Jim Jarmusch's? Wasn't that an A24 also?
If that was an A24, then yes, I have seen an A24 movie that I disliked.
I didn't dislike it, but I'm used to walking out of a Jim Jarmusch movie going, It's like where I don't really like it, but I don't really hate it. I'm just kind of confused about how I feel about it. Because like he has a tendency to end movies where he just ends them. He doesn't wrap them up. He doesn't tell the beginning of the story to the end of the story. He just tells it to where he decides he's done telling it. And that can be really disconcerting and, hard for people. And I feel a little guilty about that because I knew what I was in for when we went and saw that movie. You were not familiar with Jim Jarmusch as a director. So when he did, I got what I expected from it. A pretty entertaining movie with a fairly unsatisfying ending. And I can see how somebody who's not expecting that goes in could really hate it.
Yeah. But, I mean, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't go as far as to say hate.
But I'm not 100% sure if that was an A24 film or not, but just for the record.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Just so not spoiling the movie, but to talk a little bit about some of the characters in the movie. This movie has Kevin Garnett in it and The Weeknd, both playing themselves and both playing. It takes place several years before the year that the movie came out. So they're both playing versions of themselves that are earlier in their respective careers. And they're both playing fairly unlikable versions of themselves. And so I thought that was very interesting. And I don't know, I guess maybe courageous in a way that they allowed themselves to be depicted as these unsavory versions of themselves.
Yeah, I always kind of find that interesting when an actor will play themselves, or a celebrity plays themselves in a film, and that film casts them in a negative light. It's like, well, yeah, that is kind of brave, and it's kind of it shows how humble you are, that you're willing, to allow yourself, because a lot of, like, I could never imagine Trump guest starring in a film or something, playing a horrible, terrible person. I mean, he does that in real life, but
and you said we don't agree on politics.
Well, I didn't say that we didn't agree on politics. I misspoke myself. That's why I was trying to claim. I was like, not that we disagree on politics, but like most people who do disagree on politics, we can agree to disagree rather than try to kill one another.
Right.
But I don't know. Like I've always said, when it comes to politics, I'm more liberal than my family, but I'm more conservative than my friends. So we probably would butt heads some if we really got into talking politics. That's why we don't generally talk politics.
That's why we don't have a separate podcast that is a political podcast.
Yeah. But so I mean, it is kind of courageous to a certain degree that they allow their image to be portrayed in such a negative light.
Mm-hmm. And looking at the chart, the overall chart, now that we've done our last movie, it's interesting the spread, the distribution that we have, because we have Billy Madison and Little Nicky in the bad movie because of Adam Sandler category, and then we have on the line between good and bad, we have Ridiculous Six, The Do-Over, and Bulletproof, and then everything else is in the good, either good because of or good in spite of. So far tighter distribution than what we had with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, no surprise, was all over the place.
I always found this surprising when I've done this, kind of discussed this subject before with people about Adam Sandler, that when I actually sat down and looked at what movies he'd been in that I had seen, that I actually enjoyed most of the films I had seen. Yeah. But I always think of him as a bad actor and that I hate his films. And it's because of those two, Little Nicky and Billy Madison. And I always, I mean, this is just putting it down on, a digital hard copy. It's putting it out there visually to see in a visual format. Let's put it that way. That's the way to say it. Mm-hmm. What I've always kind of known subconsciously, that I'm like, I actually do enjoy most of the movies I've seen him. I just really hate those two movies.
Yeah. Again, just going back to 50 First Dates and Uncut Gems, what I would say is 50 First Dates is a should see, and Uncut Gems is like, of course you're an adult, I can't tell you what to do, but I would say Uncut Gems is a must see.
Alrighty, I will try to get myself to watch them. There's another movie he just did recently that I think came out on Netflix called Spaceman with Paul Dano. that one was one that I was like, I think I actually kind of want to see that. It looks interesting. But then he's done a lot of other stuff recently, like the Leo, the lizard thing he did for Netflix, the animated film that just looked horrible. And just
what Adam Sandler animation has never gone awry. Don't you remember 8 Crazy Nights?
Yeah. Not actually seen it. I've seen enough in the previews that I was like not interested in the slightest.
Yeah, ditto. Okay, my friend. So that wraps up the chart. As far as things to say to the audience in closing, I know one thing I want to say for all of our bluster about this not being a political podcast and us not necessarily being political people. I'm going to say go vote. It's vitally important. I received my voter registration card in the mail today. I will be voting and voting early. And so I would encourage everyone who's listening, if you haven't done that and it's before the election, go do that. Mr. Cassidy,
Yes.
what do you have to say to the nice people?
Well, actually, I was just going to say that if you've enjoyed this podcast, enjoyed the one that we did before about Nick Cage, that sort of format, and you would like to see more, go to our YouTube page or our Discord page or our Facebook page and leave in the comments or send us a message of other actors you would like us to give the same treatment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anybody you'd like to see done. I'm not guaranteeing that I've seen a lot of their movies, but I'm give fairly good odds.
Yeah.
Oh, and watch more movies.
I don't know if he's saying that because he legitimately wants you to watch more movies or if he's just fucking with me.
Both.
Okay. Well, on that note, I am still Jasper.
I am still Cassidy.
And
at least I think I'm still Cassidy. Where's my wallet?
I mean that's what it says on the screen.
Okay, yeah. ID says I'm still Cassidy.
That would be weird if it had changed. Anyway. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching and stay classy, San Francisco.